Good afternoon. We begin with breaking news. There's been a dramatic escalation in the NRL's ongoing pay dispute. From tomorrow, players will not participate in any game day media opportunities after a breakdown in negotiations over the collective bargaining agreement.
Some players will not believe this is hard enough, given we're 20 months into negotiations. Just let that sink in. You know, we shouldn't be here, and we don't want to be here. But again, we're hoping that this is a circuit breaker to these negotiations to get a good outcome for everyone.
The Rugby League Players Association has given no indication on how long the boycott will last, and we'll have more on this developing story later in the bulletin. Well, a judge has expressed absolute disgust in court after the police officer accused of tasering great-grandmother Claire Nowland failed to show up in court in person in Cooma this morning. Extra security was organised for Christian White's first court appearance, and while he dialed in via video link instead, one lady drove all the way from Kiama to have her say.
I'm just so sorry for them. It's not something that should happen to anybody. You've got no idea how much this has affected me, because it's just a terrible thing to be done to anybody.
The senior constable is facing 3 charges, including recklessly causing grievous bodily harm. He'll be back in court in September. Well, health, education, jobs and housing will be the 4 key priorities for the Voice to Parliament if the upcoming referendum succeeds. Eliza Edwards is our federal politics reporter in Canberra. Eliza, the minister used a major speech to reveal more details today.
She did, Mark, and the Yes campaign is confronting a slide in support for the Voice to Parliament in recent opinion polls. So this was a key moment for Linda Burney to clear up exactly what the Indigenous advisory body would focus on. She says the 4 main gaps of disadvantage are in health, education, employment and housing, and these will be the areas she asks the independent Voice to prioritise if there is a yes vote at the upcoming referendum. The minister also used this address to launch a fresh attack on opposition leader Peter Dutton, accusing him of, quote, bully boy tactics, and had this to say about the no camp more broadly.
It is importing Trump-style politics to Australia. It is post-truth, and its aim is to polarise. Its aim is to sow division in our society.
Mark, before the minister spoke, we saw Peter Dutton accuse the government of keeping crucial details from the public about the powers and scope of the Voice.
Linda Burney today needs to be honest with the Australian public, not pretend that the Voice is one thing when it's much broader than what she's suggesting it is.
There was no clarity yet from Minister Linda Burney on exactly what date Australians will head to the polls, but Mark, the referendum is expected to fall between October and December.
Eliza, thank you. Paramedics called a snap rally in the city today to ramp up pressure on the government over pay and demand the Premier return from holidays to negotiate. They're now threatening rolling statewide strikes if Chris Minns doesn't raise the offer from 4 to 6% by Friday.
This is not going to go away. This is not a war I chose. But if you want to stare us down, do it at your peril.
State politics reporter Liz Daniels will have more details after 4:30. A man is in a critical condition after he was struck by a car in Sydney's northwest. The 83-year-old pedestrian was hit along Castle Hill Road at West Pennant Hills just before 10 o'clock this morning. He was taken to Westmead Hospital with a serious head injury. The 67-year-old male driver was also taken to Westmead for mandatory testing. Well, there has been a heavy police presence at the funeral for gangland member Alan Moradian, who was executed in a Bondi Junction car park last week. A service was held at the Assyrian Church in Greenfield Park before he was laid to rest in Pine Grove Cemetery in Minchinbury, where police searched the cars of a number of mourners. It comes as officers continue to hunt for 2 men believed to be involved in the shooting. The police are desperately seeking information from the public after human remains were found inside a burnt-out car in Waterfall yesterday. It's believed the Toyota RAV4 was a dark colour and travelled down the Cumberland Highway on Monday night.
If you saw a vehicle fitting that description, or you have dash cam footage fitted to your vehicle, please contact us here at Sutherland or Crime Stoppers.
Police do not believe the incident is linked to another car found burnt out with human remains inside in North Parramatta yesterday. Well, next time you're at a concert or the footy, beware, you're probably being watched. Today we found out some of Australia's largest stadiums are using facial recognition technology without us knowing. Legal experts say we don't know why the information is being collected or what it's being used for, and that Australia's privacy laws need to be updated.
We need strong laws that directly regulate facial recognition technology to protect consumers, because they can't protect themselves at present.
We will have a full interview with the expert later in the bulletin. At least 15 people have been shot dead in mass shootings over 24 hours across the United States. 3 people were killed and another 14 injured after a shooter opened fire into a festival crowd in Texas. One of the victims, believed to be a child, and a 5th person has died after a shooting in Philadelphia. Ukraine's president is warning a nuclear power plant held by Russia could be loaded with explosives. In a video message, Volodymyr Zelensky claimed Russia has a bomb on the roof of the Zaporizhzhia nuclear power station. Russia has hit back, accusing Ukraine of plans to launch long-range missiles and kamikaze attack drones tonight. Oh, the Princess of Wales has stepped out in a pastel green blazer to take in a match at Wimbledon. Kate was joined by tennis great Roger Federer, who was greeted with a standing ovation. Federer mistakenly breaking royal protocol to greet her with a pat on the back. We can't do without volunteers in Australia, and those involved in the state's Marine Rescue Service really make a difference, in some cases between life and death. New figures show they performed more than 4,500 rescues in the year to the 30th of June, a significant increase. To talk about this, we have Commissioner Alex Barrell. Welcome, Commissioner. Thank you for your time. It's an impressive performance from our volunteers. Can you talk us through some of the details?
Yeah, look, thanks, Mark. Absolutely. It's an impressive performance by all of our dedicated volunteers. We've seen over the last 12 months a real increase in the number of assistance to vessels that our organisation's been called to upon. And this is on the back of a record year 2.5 years ago. So we're really at the moment, there's real high demand for our services, and we're continuing to see it grow year on, year out.
What sort of rescues have been needed? Have you noticed some areas are real hotspots?
Yeah, look, really what we've seen over the last 12 months is we've been consistent right across the state. Traditionally, we see more work or more demand for our service around the metropolitan parts of Sydney, Hunter Central Coast and down the Illawarra. But as I say, consistently right along the New South Wales coastline, there has been an increase in the demand for our service. And what we're seeing is a continued rise in probably what we call as preventable incidents, where people need our assistance for things what we think are avoidable, like running out of fuel, not checking their vessel before they go to sea, and probably most importantly, in many cases, not checking the weather conditions.
Is this because so many more people are buying boats? What do you think the situation is, or people are just not checking on their vessel before they go out?
Look, we know through COVID that there was definitely an increase in people that went out and got their boat licences or went and bought boats. We certainly saw that translate into increased service for us. We had our record year through 20 and 21, but what we've seen through the last financial year is that demand for our service to continue to grow. And as you said in your introduction, a record year for us with over 4,500 rescues.
What do you say would be your top tips to people planning a day on the water?
Look, the most important thing really is to check the weather conditions, to make sure that you know your vessel and you know your limitations. Make sure that everyone that is on board your vessel is wearing a life jacket in line with what the requirements are. And most importantly, from our perspective, we encourage all boaters before they do go off, and particularly when they head off into the offshore environment, to log on with Marine Rescue. It's a free service and it can be done over the VHF Marine Network Channel 16 or through our free Marine Rescue app.
Commissioner, I know personally they do a great job, and thank goodness they are out there. But for now, thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mark.